America will decide who its next president will be on next Tuesday. That will be next Tuesday, November 5th. We've covered this race very extensively on India Today and India Today Global. We started covering this race when back when the nominee for the Democratic Party was Joe Biden. Since then, we've seen the debates. We've seen Joe Biden get out of the race. We saw how Kamala Harris got nominated. And now we are in the last 5 days of this very consequential US election. So we've heard the closing statements from President Trump 3 days ago at his rally in New York. We also heard from Vice President Kamala Harris yesterday in Washington, D.C., when she had her closing arguments. And American public, when we talk to them, are really tired of the rhetoric. They're tired of the negativity. And you talk to any American, they probably are not as involved, in politics and are not probably aware of everything that goes around among the political circles. But what they do know is the fact that they have a choice to make on November 5th to tone down some of that rhetoric, to tone down the messaging. The Harris campaign and the surrogates are doing a lot of stuff. Like today, comedian Rajiv Satyal is going to be hosting former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. Now, Andrew Yang, as some of you may know, ran in the primaries in 2020. He peaked during that primary season before eventually dropping out, but has obviously remained very influential with the Democratic Party. He's an entrepreneur, and Rajiv, on the other hand, is a very well-known Indian American comedian. I mean, he is one of those people, the very few rare breed of comedians. When you talk about Indian American successful comedians, you can think about Mindy Kaling, Russell Peters, probably Rajiv, and few more to the list. Rajiv is going to be hosting Andrew Yang tonight on a Facebook and Instagram live. And this is an event for Halloween. It's going to be filled with fun and laughter, and obviously trying to make a case for Vice President Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States. So today, we're going to be hearing from both of them. First, we'll be joined by Rajiv and then by Andrew Yang. And we'll talk to both of them to see what they're doing in their capacity to elect Vice President Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. Also, it's going to be a very candid conversation, not your typical political points, not your tough questions. It's just going to be about what it is to be an American and why they think that Donald Trump could take country backwards. And joining us now is Rajiv Satyal. He's one of the very few successful Indian American stand-up comics. You've probably seen a lot of his stuff, a handful of them, and he's obviously worked with all the other names, Russell Peters, Mindy Kaling, you name it, and he's been there. So, Rajiv, I know you're busy. Thank you so much for making time for us. First thing first, let's talk about the event you're hosting with Andrew Yang, who's a former presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. Trump nightmare, this event. How did this idea come into being? And, we could all use some comic relief in this polarized election cycle. So tell me about, how did this idea come into being and what are you trying to do with this event?
We are here to scare people. It's Halloween, it's Diwali, it's Diwalaveen. My mom and all the aunties really cannot stand when these holidays coincide. The solar meets the lunar, and all the aunties I know are trying to separate it. No, beta, it's actually on Friday. We're like, no, auntie, just accept it. Light is canceling out dark. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Actually, maybe let's hope that does happen for this election, because I'm clearly on the side of, Auntie Kamala auntie. She's half Indian and half black, meaning this would be the first time that whites do not have any of the presidency. You realize that, right? Because they still had half of it during Obama's time. They still had half of it. This will be none of it. So can white people deal with it? Let's hope. I think so.
You think a lot of people are, I mean, obviously independence and all that, but you think a lot of people have made up their mind just going by what you've heard around. I mean, it's because I've been covering this campaign extensively for the past 3 months, and I still run into people who are like, we don't know yet.
Mm-hmm. I think most people have made up their minds. There are some people on the fence between communism and fascism. I'm kidding. Look, I think that, they're both ideologies that are not democracy. India and America, we know a lot about democracy, obviously. there was a great series in the Zeros by Ricky Gervais called Extras, and his friend Maggie would always ask him these inane questions. Would you rather have your food too salty or too sweet? And he's like, well, if it's too salty or too sweet, it's rubbish, isn't it? And she goes, well, I like it more salty because I like savory things. It's like, no, but you said too salty or too sweet. So I think of this in this context where people go, look, these two choices are so different. How can it be hard for you to make up your mind? Just because you have two different choices doesn't mean you have a good choice, right? There are people in the middle going, I can't truck with either one of them. Now, I'm all in on Kamala, but I get it, though. I understand if you can't quite make up your mind because the far left and the far right in this country are pretty different. They have more in common than I think they would want to admit, but I don't know. I think most people have made up their mind. Maybe they're just saying they're undecided to get all the attention. It's like there was a Valentine's Day party I used to go to. My then girlfriend and I, you could wear red for taken, green for open, and blue for not sure. And we were together for years. We'd always wear blue. And people are like, you're in a relationship. Like, I know, but we won't get any attention. If we say we're already in a relationship, no one's going to talk to us. We say, well, we're not sure. People will talk to you. So this is their way of wearing blue.
So it is very interesting, and this time we're also seeing a lot of Indian American people getting out there, right? I've talked to a lot of them. Some people are saying they would be the margin of victory in some of these states. Uh, what could you tell us? I mean, have you heard the same things or sentiments from the people?
I've never heard it spun better that we are in small numbers here. It's just so great. Like almost the smaller the number of people, like Eskimos, they could be the margin of victory. And I like it, Rohit, the way you said margin of victory, not margin of error, because the way we're raised, we don't think of ourselves as error. There's no mistake that we've made here. We're the margin of victory. But I think the real part of that is, look, it's a 68% white country. I think 12, 13% black, 12, 13% Latino, Hispanic. So 5% for East and Southeast and South Asian Pacific Islanders, if you club us all together, 5%. So it can make a difference, but it also skews our view a little bit too, because people go, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. All the people to whom I speak, I'm like, but are all the people you're talking to brown? And a lot of my brown friends are like, yeah. I'm like, you got to get out. You got to talk to some black folks, some white folks, some Latino folks, and you'll get maybe not a better sense, but I think you'll get a more general sense of how this is going. So we could very well be the margin. I mean, they're talking about Michigan, especially, Arab Muslim voters. Kamala could lose Michigan, and that could be the election. And that'd be the hand. Michigan's shaped like a hand, and they might be giving her the stop. Although, my people are from India, so I can't do it from that angle, but if you flip it upside down, it's kind of, even have the seven sisters there.
Oh Lord. Rajiv, this is one I think's been missing. Everybody's so worked up, charged up in this election. Do you think America has lost sense, like the loss of humor? I mean, America used to be, you got the night show and all these daily night shows where people would talk and have fun. We don't see that much anymore. Where has that disappeared?
This is the issue with fascism, communism. Everything is part of the state, right? You can't live outside of the state. And for a long time, you wondered, what does that even mean? Because it's just the water in which you swim, and everybody picks a side. Everything's polarized. You eat at Chick-fil-A, oh, that means you don't like the queer community. Or, you shop at this place, and that means you don't, whatever it is. That's one example of so many that it's hard to even think of it because you're in the state, you're in the water. So I think, look, I saw a joke. It was a play on the Walmart logo, and it read, Kamala, instead of Walmart, it just read Kamala, live worse, pay more. And I thought that was funny. Like, I'm a Kamala supporter. I'm on the left. I'm like, that's a legitimately funny. Like, it's very to the point. It gets the point across what they're trying to say. I don't agree with it, but you got to be able to laugh at this stuff because that's what we do as comedians. Is you're still trying to find the funny in it. When people go, when is too soon? Well, it's never too soon for us because we're the ones who have to provide that comic relief. It's called relief for a reason, and people are doom scrolling and they're talking to people. And I texted my friend just a few minutes ago, just be like, why don't we just move this to December 5th, just to give ourselves another month to think about it, like Shawshank Redemption and the whole. And he goes, please, God, no. And I'm obviously just joking. But, at this point, it's like, there's been so much that has happened. It feels like there have been so many elections in the span of this one election that you got to laugh to keep from crying. I think that Americans largely have lost their sense of humor about this. And that's a shame because that's one of the things, self-deprecation, the Brits do it well and the Americans do it well. I'll say we don't do it quite as well to make ourselves, even more self-deprecating.
Now, Trump nightmare, tell us, what jokes you have in store. Just give us a sneak preview, before you do the live with Andrew Yang. I mean, you talk about nightmare, Halloween. We've obviously read the serious reports about Project 2025 and his vision and whatnot, but just from your sense of it, what would a Trump 2.0 look like?
What people are saying is true, I think, is that he'd be more unhinged. He now knows where the bodies are buried, so to speak, or where he can bury the bodies. He kind of knows where to go, and the people that are restraining him, they're not going to be there anymore. All the people that came out that were there, like Mattis and Kelly and all the people from the first generation from 1.0, are not going to be there. It's going to be a loyalty test. And so when people go, well, we were fine the first 4 years, I don't know, man. That's like when people say, well, whatever doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Not cancer. I've had friends who have had cancer. They come out much weaker. And that's not a joke. That's a very serious thing. People really do come out of that like, oh my God, that took a lot out of me. And I'm getting older. And now there's this idea of, oh my gosh, that took a lot out of me. And as you get older, that's something that does happen to you. And as the country gets older and we get older, there is this idea that it does sap your strength. And so, yes, the Bush years were tough. And Trump 1.0 was not easy either. And we survived it and the institutions held, but they held barely. And we broke our streak of 240 years of a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, that sucks. I'm a streak person. I'm very OCD. A lot of comedians are. I like things neat and be able to like keep streaks going. So if I'm, not drinking for a long time, I like to just not drink because that's my streak. If I've been drinking every night in a row, I'm like, no, come on, let's have another one. Let's just keep the streak going. I like things that are going. I like the momentum. I was an engineer too. So maybe I just like, P equals MV. So that's kind of where my mind is. But the idea with hashtag Trump nightmare is for people to share what they think could happen. Handmaid's Tale. I'm not even used to saying that. Handmaid's Tale, Project 2025, you just mentioned. JD Vance is from my home state of Ohio. And I actually went to orchestra practice in Middletown, Ohio. That's a little thing about me. I'm my viola on the floor here. So I know a good amount about that part of the country. And yes, I think it would be a nightmare for marginalized people. I don't want to say minorities because the Chinese and the Indians are like most of the, a lot of the planet. So don't call us minorities. People of color, women, all the other people who are marginalized groups, the queer community. It will be tough if Trump wins. It will be hard. And I think people don't realize this right now. And I think it's a mistake not to realize it. So that's why we want to give people an opportunity to maybe not fear monger, but share their fears and commiserate a little bit, and then hopefully end with an uplifting message, not only of Kamala winning, but also, God forbid, if she doesn't, that we're still here, that we're still banding together, that we're here for each other, and, we're not going anywhere.
I was going to actually ask that question to you. If she doesn't win, uh, what would that sentiment feel like? What would some of the people who have said certain things like, oh, we're going to leave the US and go somewhere else, do something else. I mean, we saw that in Trump, when he won in 2016 too. But it seems like, Americans do have, like, I'm pretty sure they would be able to still pull it together, right? I mean, some of the Democratic people who've said certain things, they would be fine. It is my assumption. I do not know if they would leave the country or not. You've got competition. And I say this, Rajiv, because Trump is known as one of the best stand-up comics to come from the United States. A lot of people watch his rallies for some of the comments he says. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, like, do you think he writes his own lines or is it just all impromptu? I mean, just give us, because you guys really work hard for your jokes. Sometimes you look at Trump and you're like, did he just come up with that on the fly?
He does a lot of A/B testing. I'm not only a comedian, not only an engineer, but also a marketer. I worked at Procter & Gamble for years, P&G, Punjabis and Gujaratis. I worked there for a while. I actually performed at a P&G office there in Bombay a long time ago, Mumbai. Look, the reality is he does a lot of A/B testing. He'll test one line at a rally and then he'll test another. He'll see which one gets more reaction. So he is open micing up there for a long time and he gets his best bits down. He gives himself a lot of stage time. Jay Leno, when he did Inside the Actors Studio, talked about, why he performs every night, because even on a great day, he's off stage for 23 hours because I want to be on stage for an hour. That's the longest I could probably do on average. I'm still off stage for 23 and I want to be as comfortable on stage as I am off. How will that happen unless I give myself a lot of stage time? And I feel like Donald Trump has done that for himself. That has been a big debate amongst comedians. Is Donald Trump funny? George Bush was funny. And, Donald Trump is funny. Sometimes it's inadvertent. But if you saw him on some of the podcasts that he did, like Flagrant and some of these other ones, he's a funny guy. He's entertaining. And I disagree with him strongly. I think he's the Antichrist. I'm Hindu and I think he's the Antichrist. And he has all 7 deadly sins to a 10, like lust, pride, gluttony, all of them to a 10. Okay. That said, he's funny. He does make me laugh. And some of the things he says, he is very quick-witted. He does that weave thing that he talks about. He's able to bring it back to a conversation. He's right there and with it. And the left's attempts to paint him as out of touch and old failed because he still seems like he's kind of with it. He's not as with it as he was before. He is aging, and you're seeing that, and it does accelerate. But, is he a funny guy? Yeah, I would say he's a pretty funny guy. He's funnier than a lot of the stand-up comics I know.
I have two more questions. Do you have a Trump impression for us? Can you do a Trump impression?
I am not good at impressions, so no, I will not ruin it because there are so many good. Shane Gillis does the best Trump impression of any impression I've ever seen anyone do. I think Matt Damon does some really good ones, and Kevin Spacey, rest in peace, of
Still
all
alive.
impressions. Yeah, yeah, he's still alive. Like like Louis C.K. I will say, rest in peace. But no, the only thing I can do is I can you
Yeah.
raise your shoulders and you kind of do. He does this thing a lot. Like he'll start to almost play patty cake, and then he does. If you remember math class, he does the x-axis and the y-axis, and then he'll do the z-axis. So he'll go, immigrants are coming here. They're ruining our country. They're not sending their best. They're fine people on both sides. I don't have the voice down. That's what I can't do. I have the mannerisms. I
Pretty
don't
good.
have the voice.
That was pretty good, Rajiv. Okay. From one president to the other, you said President Biden, is in a way funny. You think, oh, sorry, President Trump is funny. You think President Biden is funny. And I'm going back to the comment that he made last night about some of the people being garbage. Was that, I mean, how do you take that? Especially 5 days before the election.
Oh, like garbage, I would take it out. I think that was a bad move. He should not have. Maybe it should. I'm in California. It's about recycling here. The other day I said I threw my back out. My friend goes, "You should have recycled it." I mean, you can't throw anything out here. We don't believe in garbage in California. All of it gets recycled. Honestly, I think that was a faux pas. He should not have done that. I think just, we haven't seen you in months anyway. They were like, oh, he's not going to run. I was like, he can't even stand. What do you mean run? This guy has been completely out of the limelight for so long. And for him to insert it, it's kind of like James Comey being like, you know what, we're going to reopen this investigation to Hillary Clinton in 2016. Suddenly Biden parachutes out of nowhere and he calls Trump supporters garbage. And now he's saying something about an apostrophe and he meant a singular instead of a plural. And I'm like, you're not Seema auntie, okay? You have too many criterias. She always says everything plural, even when it's singular. She'll tell the single people that to make single people feel even more singular, she'll say criteria and make it plural. So if I were Biden, I would probably just sit this out, just wait 5-6 more days. Don't call them garbage. That's worse than calling them deplorable. And arguably, that's why Hillary lost in 2016. I think we got to keep it positive from here on out. And you got use your other surrogates to do that. That's what a VP is for. That's what everyone else is for. But top of the ticket and the president, you got to be better than that, man. You got to take it higher.
Okay, one last question. I know you have to run.
Sure.
What would you tell people about, what if they really haven't voted and not made up their mind? What would you tell them to vote for your candidate, which is Vice President Kamala Harris?
Look, I am supporting Kamala Harris. It is not a full-throated endorsement because comedians should not full-throatedly endorse anyone. I think we're the ones who have to be standing against the establishment and to go wholeheartedly in for a candidate. If you're a true comedian, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like you're shilling a little bit. I am voting for Kamala. I think the biggest reason to vote for her is I think she does have this idea, this vision of bringing people together. And look, at the end of the day, her policies and democratic policies are more for the middle class and the lower class. I mean, the last thing we need to do is cut taxes for the wealthy, for the corporations. They already have so many tax cuts. To me, wealth inequality is the defining issue of our time. So I would have voted for Donald Trump. Let me keep myself honest. I had considered voting for Donald Trump in 2016 in the early part of the primaries when he talked about raising taxes on the wealthy. I remember saying to my wife, I go, I might vote for this guy. She goes, are you out of your mind? I go, that's my issue. If he raises taxes on the wealthy, so I'll be consistent here and say I would have probably voted for Trump if he would have kept that promise or kept that idea. Again, A/B testing. But when Kamala says that she's going to raise taxes on the rich, she's not going to do it for the lower classes and the middle classes. I think, upping the minimum wage, taking care of the workers, that's more of the Democratic Party. I think it became too beholden to the woke and taking care of people who aren't here yet. And well, the Republicans do that too, the unborn. I'm like, what about the people who are here? Even the Democrats, people are coming in. What about the Americans who are here? Forget about the unborn, forget about the immigrants coming in. Let's take care of people who are here right now. So that's my issue with is wealth inequality. I think she will help address that. With climate change, she's taking it seriously. I think these are two very, very big issues. And, abortion, I mean, that's a very, very charged topic. But at the end of the day, it's like, let you do you, right? And we're not trying to impose our beliefs on other people too. So, and she carries a Glock. So, there's that.
There's that too. She does care. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for making time for us. Good luck with the Trump Nightmare event. Well, I'm calling it event. It's an online event on Twitter, not Twitter, my bad, Instagram and Facebook with Andrew Yang, and I'm pretty sure you will be doing great in that. We'll come back to you after election to talk about how everything panned out, and maybe you would be required to provide some comic relief. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy Diwali.
Thank you, Rohit. Happy Diwali to you and all of India today.
Thank you.